In her vlogs, there are many instances in which the children ask her to stop filming them, but Ruby continues to film and upload it. They then posted a video telling viewers that they have been advised by mental health professionals to say that this is how they should be treating their kids, and essentially say that people online should not be getting involved in their parenting is hard, resilient, and pain develop resilience and grit. And that's what leads to success in life. If we make things easy on our kids all the time, they're going to grow up to be snowflakes. Yeah, and the things that we show and share, and the things that many of you are criticizing and calling abusive, are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do in May 2020, a change. Org petition was started urging Child Protection Services to investigate Ruby and Kevin Franke. The petition got 17,000 signatures, and Child Protection Services did actually briefly investigate the case. They went and interviewed the kids, but the case was closed soon after, as they did not find enough evidence. I only wish they'd investigated this further at the time, because then perhaps these kids could have escaped the situation sooner. And the 2020 investigation was not the only time that they were investigated before the arrest. In 2023, Ruby stopped uploading blogs in January of 2022, and the 8 Passengers channel went dormant. Around this time, their neighbors started to voice concerns about the family, and the police were called to their home multiple times. Records show that the police responded to the home more than a dozen times. During the last 4.5 years, several of those visits were related to concerns about the children's well-being. However, officers responding wrote that they saw children in the home, but the children would not answer the door. A neighbor told Rolling Stone that in early 2022 it started getting weird. People were concerned because Ruby completely stopped her YouTube stuff and then it kind of turned dark. She taped up paper all over her windows, and she would disappear for weeks at a time. And there's all these little kids just left alone in this house. A lot of these reports detail Ruby Franke leaving the kids to see her friend Jody Hildebrandt. It's also worth noting, before we go into Jody and Ruby's relationship, the neighbors have said that it is common knowledge that Ruby's husband Kevin moved out of the residence last year, so the children were being left alone for long periods of time. So who is Jody Hildebrandt, and why was Ruby spending so much time with her? Well, Ruby's time with Jody is well documented in 2022. Jody and Ruby went into business together, starting a mom support group called Mums of Truth. Alongside this, Ruby started appearing on Jody's channel Connections. Connections is Jody's business venture that she founded in 2007, and then last year she decided to train Ruby as a life coach. And Ruby got more involved when she told viewers that she was leaving YouTube to do more with Connections. It is speculated that Jody got Ruby more involved as a way of increasing her own reach, as she knew that Ruby came with a certain amount of followers and subscribers that she would then aim to convert to Connections and Mums of Truth. It is also important to note at this point that Jody Hildebrandt is no stranger to the Franke family. She was actually the eldest son's therapist for a while. A phone call yesterday with my therapist, and she taught me about truth and distortion. Mom probably talks about Joey all the time, but I've mentioned Jody a few times. She has a podcast called Connections with an X. What did you learn? Well, I learned about the 3 different types of pain, and we can feel pain in ways of our own choices. Other people's choices, and just like random events. And it's our way to choose to see things in truth. So me deciding that my stomachache was Chad's fault was not seeing things in truth. So Jody describes herself as an educator, a mother, an author, and a life coach, and found her Connections as a way of helping treat those lost and stranded in the darkness of distortion, which addictions, fear, sadness, and all other self-destructive behaviors derive from. Jody started out as a fun addiction therapist, but came into controversy in 2012 when she broke patient confidentiality by sharing information about a patient with his university, which resulted in him being kicked out. The information that she shared was also allegedly made up. The client said she spent hardly any time knowing about my life. She didn't want to talk about my personal goals or my progress. She would only threaten me that if I didn't take more sessions and have my wife take more sessions, the alleged addiction would destroy my life after this incident. Jody was taken to court and her license was put on probation for 18 months. She eventually got her license back. But her credibility, especially in relation to her newest business ventures with Ruby, was put into question long before now. And some kids won't even do a lot of compliance. They'll just get hit and then they'll just look at you like, so now what are you going to do? Hit him harder. You know, like Pamela in the Connections program, Jody and Ruby encourage homophobia, transphobia, and general complete control of your children, and essentially promote parental abuse as a godly way of parenting. The priority is truth, which is God. That's your priority. That comes first, and then everything and everyone else comes underneath. Principles mentality. Someone just said to me just 2 minutes ago, like, you talk so much about being awake, but you don't like to say that they work. But I laughed and I'm like, doesn't understand a difference in the meaning of woke and awake, completely opposite. But the person who was saying it, the thought that they meant the same thing. Yeah, right? Another thing that people are being divided around is LGBTQ, and I think there's an I now plus plus. Okay, it's another of these movements that are going on in our world that is divisive. Well, it is. I mean, they're putting meaning on the word, and it's constantly changing. So it's kind of people wanted like to say that, right? Did I miss the letters right into something? Why not? No, you don't know what that means. I mean, how many times? I work with people every day, and not every day, but probably once a week. Somebody says a word like, cisgender was the last word. Like, what in the heck is that? It's just a made-up word that someone's likes meaning on in this home. You don't get personal space, because this is my space because I'm the parent. If you want your own personal space, you'll need to get your own space. This is mine, and as long as you're living in my home, it is my job to... You're in distortion. You're reeling right now. If you're in distortion, you're reeling right now, your children have a right to privacy. And I would say very clearly, no. Everything in their life is open to you. Everything, journals. If you've graciously given them a room, that room's yours, it's not theirs, your drawers. Everything is up to investigation whenever you want to go and investigate. When Ruby first started appearing alongside Jody, she claimed that she left 8 passengers because it was endangering her kids being exposed to the internet. It is true, but it seems that she's not able to admit that she was exploiting her kids for money and that they did not deserve to have their lives broadcast online. Instead, she was upset that people were getting angry at her for the ways that she was treating her kids, and therefore she removed them from the internet altogether, no doubt, so that she could control them more and control their perception of her more, as if they are able to log into their YouTube channel and see comments criticizing their mother's treatment of them. That's going to be bad for Ruby, who wants to keep treating them horribly and wants them to think that her parenting is the only good way of parenting. You wonder where I've been on my vlogs. You wonder why I left YouTube to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt with entitlement. They were being hurt with people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in my home long enough to do it, and I'm not going to lose them. They're seeing truth, they're accepting truth, they're loving truth. And so this is my passion, is to invite you to stand in truth and put your opinions to the side for a minute, because your kids are the target of distortion in the Connections videos. Ruby and Jody call any thoughts that do not fit with their worldview distortions, and claim that they can coach you out these distortions and teach you the truth. If you're thinking that it sounds like a cult, that's because it does. It aligns with a lot of the principles of coercive control that are found in cult-like organizations. We have a leader, Jody, who claims that she knows the truth. She is claiming to be a godlike figure with knowledge that most other people don't have because they are living in a so-called distortion of reality. She claims that her reality is on a higher plane and is the truth. And in order to find the truth, you need to pay her hundreds and thousands of dollars to coach you. Her version of the truth involves isolating you, reinforcing traditional gender roles, denying other people's truth. And through their parenting teachings, Jody encourages complete control of your kids. This parenting advice is not about putting the kids,